Hello and welcome to Tim Connolly Drums. Well, recently I've had some comments or commenters asking me if I've ever done biker gigs or biker bar gigs. Well, I've done quite an assortment of biker bars, biker parties, and biker type venue, like strip joint type gigs, So I've done a variety of biker oriented gigs in the past. So I'm going to tell you just a couple stories about those types of gigs because there's always an interest in this sort of thing. Now, I saw some pretty crazy stuff at some of these biker gigs. They're not typical gigs by any means. They're exclusive gigs, meaning that they're only, the only people at the parties or at the show are bikers. The only people who aren't bikers are the band members, myself and all my band members. None of us were bikers. Now, how the heck do non-bikers that kind of look like me get biker gigs? Well, I'll tell you, one of the ways I got biker gigs was just being on tour up in Northern Ontario. There's a lot of bike gangs up there, and there's a lot of the venues that we were playing, not a lot, but some of the venues that we were playing were biker run or biker owned. So a lot of the people that showed up, now those up north gigs weren't exclusively bikers. It was open to the public, but it's just that usually when you have a biker bar, it's usually bikers that show up. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're part of a gang. You could be just someone that likes to ride motorcycles. That's technically a biker. But what I'm going to focus on today more is of the actual biker gang, Hell's Angels type people. So, so how did I get biker gigs other than up north? Well, I used to belong to a gym back in the 90s in Burlington, Ontario. And at that gym, the owner was affiliated with Hell's Angels. And one of the people from Hell's Angels, his name was Johnny Canine, who is deceased now. But Johnny was a biker, and he was also a former professional wrestler. He was in the WWE, I believe, or a Canadian affiliate of the WWE. But he was a huge man, a monster of a man. And he always used to walk around in this, he used to ride his bike, but he would always wear this World War I German soldier helmet. That's how I remember the guy. And he was he was a crazy guy. But anyways, he worked out in the gym that I went to. And the owner, like I said, had biker affiliations and knew Johnny well. And, I got to know Johnny working out in the gym. He was friendly to me. He was a huge guy. I remember seeing him benching over 500 pounds one time. And I'm just like, holy geez, this guy is pretty scary. So anyways, one day the owner came up to me and said, you're a professional musician. You play in a band. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. He says, well, I might want to hire your band for a party that's coming up. It's a birthday party, and we're interested in hiring your band. And he said, just give me a price. Money is not an issue. And I was like, whoa, like no one's ever said that to me before that day. No one's ever said that to me after that day. Money's not an issue. So I'm thinking, wow, okay. Obviously the gym is doing well. I didn't know, though, until later that it was for Johnny, and it was a biker party at the clubhouse in Hamilton. Or not the clubhouse, but a place that they rented near the clubhouse, is what I should say, because it was actually a venue that they rented. So, I talked to him more and more about this because sometimes people will come up to you and they just talk and, yeah, I want to hire your band, but they're not really that serious. So I remember giving him my number, And he already had my number because he was the owner of the gym, but still, I gave him my number, and there was no email at this time. This was back in the 90s. And I said, if you're serious and you want to book it and you want to know information and all that sort of thing, give me a call. Well, a few days later, he called me and he said, this is what we want to do. And then he told me who it was for, that the party is a biker exclusive. You'll be the only ones that's not a biker, and him and some of his friends. They weren't bikers either, but they were affiliated with the biker organization. And at first I was really quite thrown off by the whole, a biker gang, Hell's Angels, Johnny's the president of this chapter. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. But the money was really good. Everything was going to be fine. And that there was going to be no problems. And that, you just come and do your thing. But he did say to me, play rock, maybe a little bit of Southern rock, but mainly play rock and hard rock. He said, you don't have to play any, crazy metal, whatever. Do not play any pop or anything like that, any dancey stuff. It's going to have to be straight rock, hard rock, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Motley Crue, all that sort of thing. Now, the band that I was in at the time played some of that, but we would have to revamp our set list. So we ended up hiring a guy who was in a Motley Crue tribute band to help with the vocals. So we ended up hiring him because we were on a open budget. So we ended up getting paid actually a lot of money. It was one of the highest paying gigs I ever did, technically a corporate gig. So it was very high paying gig, which really surprised me. But like I said, we had to hire somebody outside of the band for some of the vocal stuff because our current vocal, while we were doing Guns N' Roses and rock stuff, he could sing that, but not all night. Because when you're singing Motley Crue, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, that is in the upper range. And most singers just can't do 35 of those kind of songs. I mean, it's pretty challenging. Even the real singers don't do that many songs in a show. They might do anywhere between 15 to 22 on average. So we were doing Ozzy. We were doing, I remember one of the songs that I actually love playing is the Ace of Spades by Motorhead. They love that song. Anyways, let's get to some more of these details. So I ended up, doing up a contract for him. He signed it. He actually paid me in advance, which shocked the hell out of me. He didn't pay me the full amount. He gave me a very large deposit, which was over half of what we were getting paid. And he just said, make sure you show up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to monkey around with any bikers or biker affiliates. We will be there. So the day comes. We show up. I was very nervous about the crowd, like what's going to happen here. I knew we were playing the right music though. And I knew that they would enjoy us, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Deep Purple as well, the classics, Sweet Home Alabama, all the stuff that they love. And we even played Freebird. No! But this time it was yes. We played Freebird and they loved it. So anyways, we went in, we got set up, did a sound check, place fills up. It was a biker heaven. If you're a biker, this was the place to be. Now, these guys drink heavy. I don't want to get into the details of what, a lot of the things that I witnessed there, because I don't want to get into those kind of details. But let me just tell you, these guys go at it hard. The women are just as tough as the men, and they all go at it really hard. Now, I remember we opened with, what was it? A Deep Purple song. Can't remember which one. It'll come to me. Star, I'm a highway star. Yeah, Highway Star. What an unbelievable song to open to. I normally don't like opening to songs that are that fast because I need, even though I do warm up on a pad, I'm not warmed up on the kit. I never warm up on a drum kit before a show. I just warm up on a pad. But we were like, we got to nail it down right away. And we did. Opened up with Highway Star, Deep Purple. We ended up playing every song. They loved it all. We played, like I said, all great rock tunes. I actually really enjoyed the performance element. There were all songs, rock songs that I love. And the Guns N' Roses guy, he was a legit Guns N' Roses singer because I had played with him in a Guns N' Roses tribute, and he sounded exactly like Axl. So when we did, Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to the Jungle, stuff like that, the audience loved it. These bikers loved it because he actually sounded and looked and danced around like Axl. So it was actually a good show. Now, there was fights. It was almost a chicken wire gig because stuff got thrown up on the stage. Now, I don't think we were targeted, though. Nobody at any point said, you suck, or, this is an aggressive crowd. If we sucked, they would have let us know. They seemed to like us the whole show. Everybody was very, very complimentary, really nice to us. It tried to get me to do some things I didn't want to do, like booze and, some of this stuff. I didn't want to do any of that. I don't do that. That's not my thing. And I just told them straight up, look, man, I'm a professional musician. I stick to my craft, and I'm just not interested in any form of alcohol or substance use, whatever. You guys do what you got to do. I'm just here to perform. So, like I said, there was some crazy stuff going on out in the crowd. There was some open sexuality stuff going on. It was a kind of a crazy gig, but at the same time, I really enjoyed playing those songs because it was they were really receptive to us and they liked us. In the end, we got paid the rest of the money, came right out. The second we were done, the freaking guy from the gym was there with the cash. He paid us. And then he said, you guys were awesome. You did a great job. I went around. Johnny came up, the birthday boy, shook my hand, said, thanks a lot. You guys did a great job. They were all really happy. Thank goodness, because I was really worried, but we picked the right songs. I knew the songs were correct. So on a side note, whenever you play, if you're playing a 20-year-old girl's birthday party and she's into Britney Spears and she's into Katy Perry and Beyonce and all that stuff, well, then you can't show up playing frickin' Iron Maiden. You have to play to your crowd if you know your crowd. Now, that being said, obviously, if you're a rock band and you just play rock, you're not going to be playing Beyonce. I get it. And vice versa. You're in a band, you're playing pop music and top 40, you're not going to be playing Maiden. So, when you're doing your bookings, most people understand that. But I had some flexibility because I would pull people in and out of the band depending on what we were doing. We could do a pop show, top 40 show, or we could do a rock show. We could do a hard rock show. I could even do a country show if I really had to. So I could pull the people in that I needed to perform. I could get horns, keyboards, whatever I needed. I had that ability to pull various musicians in. You guys know what I'm talking about. I've done it many times too, where I've just been hired to come in and do a particular show because of the skills that I bring to the table. People would hire me because, I do certain things well and they want me to be in their band. So that's great. Now, so that one went well. Now, I've also done Oshawa Biker Bar. That show, not so great. The show itself was fine. The venue was a really crappy place. I can't remember the name of it. If you guys can name off some biker type bars in the Schwa, let me know and it'll remind me, because you guys always help me out because I do forget a lot of these gigs. I played so many, I just forget the names of places. But that gig didn't go so well just because the crowd, while it was a biker bar, it was all full of bikers. And again, they enjoyed the show, but the violence out there when a rival bike gang showed up, it was like scenes out of a movie. Just I didn't see a lot of it because I was on stage and we had lights at that particular show, but I could hear what was going on. And a couple of times we had to stop because the stage was just being infiltrated by people fighting, and that was crazy. And then, of course, Port Dover, Friday the 13th in Port Dover, Ontario. That's where the bikers go every Friday the 13th. Well, in the past, I've been hired to play gigs in that town. I can't remember the name of the venue again. You guys know the venues. I know you do. What's the name of that venue in Port Dover where bands play on Friday the 13th and all the bikers show up? Now, this one is bikers, like bike gang members and regular bikers. It's a variety of biker type people, but they all go to Port Dover. It's a tradition on Friday the 13th, and they hire bands. And again, I got hired with the rock band, and playing all the songs that these bikers want to hear. And the show again went really, really well. Like I said, a lot of craziness. They actually put us up there, which was unusual. I was kind of surprised because I actually don't live too far from there. They didn't really need to put us up. I didn't stay. The rest of the band stayed because they lived quite far away from Port Dover, but I don't live too far from Port Dover, so I just went home. But they did offer us free accommodations. They paid us decently, not amazingly. It wasn't like I said, money's no object. It wasn't like that at all. It was definitely a contractual gig with a set amount of money and that sort of thing. But that gig, or those gigs, I should say, because I did Port Dover probably 3 or 4 times, I would say, in various bands too. They all were fine. I do remember this one time, though. I have to tell you this because this was actually quite shocking. We were playing a gig. It was not specifically a biker gig, but in this Burlington bar that we were playing at, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. It'll come to me. The name of this venue, I played there so many times. This venue, the name should come to me. It's in Burlington. But anyways, a bunch of bikers show up. Now, we didn't know these bikers are going to show up. It's like it's a bar to the public. Anybody can come in, and a whole pile of bikers show up. I actually can remember we hadn't quite started yet. We were just finishing up sound check, and all of a sudden I can hear those engines revving, and I'm like, holy cripes, how many bikes just rolled up to this place? So next thing you know, the door opens, and I'm not kidding you, 20 or 30 of them invade the place. Now, this place has a pool hall. It's got a lot of pool tables. That's why they were there. So they just walked right by the stage, went around the corner, and they go into the pool area. If anyone knows the venue that I'm talking about, once again, let me know. So they go in there playing pool. We start our set. Now, this particular band, we were playing rock, we were playing pop, we were playing disco, we were playing dance, we were playing top 40, we were playing country. We were playing a little bit of everything. Now, I can remember, I think it was the second set, and we were playing like some Michael Jackson. I think we were playing Wanna Be Starting Something by Michael Jackson. And I can remember 2 of the bikers came out, and they stood right in front of the stage, and they're watching us. And I'm like, it's not uncommon for people to stand there and watch a band. And then all of a sudden they leave, and then almost all of them come out and start watching the band. So obviously these 2 guys went back and said, you got to see this band play. They're really great. So they all came out, they all started watching us, and we were just doing our thing. People are watching us, no big deal. Bikers, doesn't matter. Anybody can watch. They go back into the pool table. They didn't dance or anything. They just stood there and watched. And then when we were done, we watched this for 2 or 3 songs, and then they went back to playing pool. Okay. So at one point through the night, there was an altercation in that pool room. I don't know exactly what happened, but there was some kind of an altercation. And it was difficult because the bouncers are up against 30 bikers, and there's only 2 bouncers. So it's like, holy cripes. So they didn't know what to do. The police ended up coming. The police escort 2 people out. We played through most of that. I think at one point we stopped and whatever, just when the police were trying to get them out because they had to physically take them out, and things were getting a little ugly. So we stopped at that point. But then when we started up again and we finished off our show, okay, so show's over, we're tearing down, and these bikers come up to us, and we didn't know what was going to happen because they just approach us and they're not saying anything or whatever. They're just sort of standing there, and then all of a sudden they go, "You know what, guys? We're not really a huge fan of the music type that you played, but you guys played those songs really, really well. And even though it's not our kind of music, we really enjoyed it." And I was like, wow, thanks. Like, Katy Perry, Michael Jackson, Rick James, we did play some rock. We did some AC/DC. They enjoyed the AC/DC. We did Bon Jovi, Journey. I think we did Metallica. We did a few rock tunes that they liked, but just the fact that they appreciated us, even though we weren't playing music that they particularly liked, they appreciated the level of musicianship, and they thought the singer was really great. Now, let's talk about one biker gig that I did that went really downhill fast. So it was on the Northern Ontario tour, and we were up north, and I talk a lot about the Northern Ontario tours, but we were up north, female singer, and we had played a show in a bar that is not necessarily a biker bar, but a lot of bikers attend. And they liked the singer a lot. She was very attractive. She could sing, she could dance, and they liked her a lot. At the end of the night, they came up and they started talking to her, when the show's over. And the next thing you know, one of them grabs her and throws her over his shoulder, and they leave the bar. And I look at my bandmates, and we're like, what the hell just happened? So we go outside. As we go outside, they're outside with her. She didn't panic. This is unbelievable. She didn't scream or panic or anything. She was kind of, you could tell, obviously, she's nervous. She's like, what the hell's going on? But at the same time, she was really kind of laughing it off and not showing an indication to them that she was scared. Now, later, she told us she was terrified. She thought, oh my God, I'm going to get raped. Something bad is going to happen to me. Fortunately, I can tell you guys that did not happen. But anyways, let me finish the story. So we go outside, and I also informed the manager as I was going outside. I just happened to see the manager. I said, look, they just grabbed our singer, threw her over the shoulder, and they went outside. So the manager, bouncers, there was about, 6 or 7 of us went outside, and there's about 6 or 7 of them. Now, I'm not going to get into a fight with bikers. They're carrying weapons. The fighting is part of their life. I'm not going to get into physical altercations with bikers. Plus, all it takes is, and this was back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I would say. So it would be a phone call. They would have to, no cell phones or anything, but they can still make phone calls and get more of them there. And then we'd really be doomed. So we go out, and the singer's kind of, looking at us, and she's sitting on the back of one of the bikes. That's where they had sort of told her to go. So she's thinking, oh no, they're going to ride off into the sunset with me, So we go out there, and they, of course, oh, look who's here. Here comes the cavalry to rescue the singer. And I happen to be the one that just sort of spoke up. And I just said, look, guys, we don't want any trouble. We really appreciate you coming out to our show, but we need her because we got more shows, and we want her to be safe and healthy, and we want her to come with us. So can you please let her get off the bike and come with us? Now, of course, they laugh, they taunt me a little bit. Oh, tough guy and all this sort of thing. Oh, where's your cape, Superman, and all this sort of stuff. And of course, I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to go bad. What I didn't know, though, was at the exact time that was happening, one of the female bartenders, God bless her soul, called the police. So as we're out there sort of negotiating, and the singer hadn't done anything, she's just sitting there, she's not even speaking. You can tell that she's upset. She's starting to cry a little bit, but she's still keeping it together. And then luckily the police show up. So they did not leave. We had this altercation, even though it never got ugly. It didn't get ugly, but it had potential to get ugly really, really fast. The police show up, and the police say, look, basically they were almost on the verge of charging these guys with kidnapping. But they didn't actually leave the property. They were kind of insinuating that they were going to leave, and she's coming with them, and that they would return her and all this sort of thing. And we were like, not having any of that. Now, luckily, like I said, they did not take off. The police didn't have to chase after them. The police show up. I don't think any actual charges were laid. The singer got off the bike. She just came with us, and we were staying at that particular venue. We had accommodations there, and the manager banned all of them. And I thought, oh, right on the spot with the police there, he says, you're all banned. You can't come back here. You can't be kidnapping singers and whatnot. And they weren't too happy about that. That's when things started to turn a little bit ugly. You know, they got very abusive, and F you and F this place, and oh, we're going to be back, and there's going to be more of us. And we had another show there, and we're thinking, oh no, this is going to be a biker war that started with this bar. We don't want anything to do with this. Now, luckily, the next night was our last show. They never showed up. Luckily, they never showed up. Something else better must have popped up for them to do. They did not show up, and we ended up finishing our show. We stayed there that night, and then in the morning, early, we left to continue on the tour. But the police, like I said, I don't think they charged them. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think there was any charges laid. I can remember the police asking her, and she said no, she didn't want any trouble, and she just wanted to, obviously not go with them. She just wants to come back with us, but she doesn't want to lay any charges. So I don't think, well, I know that she didn't lay any charges, and I don't think the police did, but they did get banned from the place to the best of my knowledge. Now, that was probably the worst thing that ever happened when I was playing at a venue that is affiliated with bikers and whatnot. But for the most part, other than that, and other than the fights and some of the nonsense and alcohol and drug use and whatever that I saw during some of the shows, for the most part, the biker gigs weren't too bad, but there was always this nervous edge to them because it's a hostile crowd. You better play music that they like. Other than that one gig in Burlington where they actually appreciated what we did, for the most part, we would always try, if we knew we were playing for bikers, we would try to make them happy and accommodate them. Now, I haven't done a biker gig in years. It's been a long time. Last time I did a biker gig was probably 2011 or 12, any kind of a Port Dover gig, maybe even earlier than that, 2010. I can't remember, but I haven't done any of those type of gigs at all. So anyways, guys, let me know in the comments if you've done any biker type gigs, and give me your stories, because my last video has done really, really well, and I really appreciate you guys watching it, and I really appreciate the comments. I love to hear your stories about some of the crazy stuff that you guys have been involved in. So I want to thank all my new subscribers, my commenters, anyone that has liked the video. Please keep subscribing, liking, and commenting, and I will keep the videos coming. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, keep drumming.